So today what we're going to work on is graphing sine and cosine functions with vertical shifts. All right, so put me on pause and do the try this and come back and we'll check your answers. Okay, so in the try this it says find the amplitude, the period, number of cycles, the midline, and the range. Okay, so let's start with the amplitude. Remember the amplitude is the absolute value of A, and in this case A is 4, so it's the absolute value of 4, which is equal to 4. So the next thing would be the number of cycles is the absolute value of B, which is the absolute value of 2, which is equal to 2. The period, so remember the amplitude is how high and how low it's going. The number of cycles is, so in this case it's 2, is how many cycles you have in 2 pi. So your period, remember, is 2 pi over B, the absolute value of B. So it's 2 pi over 2, which is pi. And what that means, in every interval of pi, you will see one complete cycle. Okay, your midline. That's the line that your graph goes up and down around. So far all we've been doing is going up and down around the x-axis. So my midline has been y is equal to 0. So in this case, my midline is y is equal to -5. So it's a shift. It's a shift down, which should make sense because I'm subtracting 5 from my y value. So that's a shift down of 5. It's a transformation. All right, so now my range. Now remember, my range is how high and how low it's going. Now, if it's starting, my midline is at -5, and it's going up 4 and down 4. So it's going up 4 and down 4. So from 5, it's going up 4, which is going to put me at -1, and it's going to go down 4, which is going to put me at -9. So my range is from -9, comma, to -1. Okay, so now we're going to use this information. We're going to graph. All right, so I'm just going to move everything up. I'm going to rewrite this down here, and you need to do the same thing. All right, so I'm just going to go through this quick. The only thing that would be missing would be my slashes and my x scale, because I'm graphing the same function from 0 to 2 pi. So my amplitude was 4. The number of cycles was 2. Period is pi. The number midline was y is equal to -5. And my range was from -9 to -1. All right, now my number of slashes is 4 times b, so it's 4 times 2, which is 8. And my x scale is 2 pi over 8, which is pi over 4. Okay, so now my midline is at -5. So I'm going to go down to -5. So there's -5, and I'm going to draw in my midline. So I put a dotted line going right across. And you can label that y is equal to -5. Now my amplitude is 4, which means from -5 I'm going up 4, which is going to put me at -1. So label that -1. And it's going down 4, which is going to put me at -9, which is -9 is down there. All right, now I need 8 slashes. Try to make them equally spaced. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to label it above the line so we can see it. So my x scale is pi over 4. So it'll be pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, pi, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, and let me just move this last one, and 8 pi over 4, which is 2 pi. Okay, so now my graph is going to go up and down around y is equal to -5. So it is a sine curve. And remember, the sine curve starts on the midline. So it's going to start right here. Since it's positive, it's going to go up. It's going to go up to its max. Its max is at 1. So at pi over 4, its max will be at -1. And then it's going to go down and hit the midline. And then go down to its minimum at -9. Go back up to -5. Back up to its max at -1. Go to -5. Back down to its min at -9. And back up to the midline. And then you could draw in your curve. So it looks like that. Okay, so let's flip it over and try the one on the back. Okay, so I'm graphing y equals -2 cosine 3x plus 4. So my amplitude is the absolute value of -2, which is 2. The number of cycles is the absolute value of 3, which is 3. The period, remember, is 2 pi over b, which is 2 pi over 3. So I will see one complete curve in 2 pi over 3. The number of slashes is 4 times 3, which is 12. My x scale will be 2 pi over 12, which is pi over 6. My midline is going to be y is equal to 4. Now my range. So my graph is going up and down around y equals 4. So at 4, that's where your graph is kind of starting. So now it's going to go up 2 to 6, and it's going to go down 2 to 2. So it'll be 2 to 6. Okay, so let's graph the midline. So we're going to go to 4. So here's 4. So graph your midline. So that's y is equal to 4. All right, so my amplitude is 2, so it's going to go up 2 from here, which is going to put me at 6, and down 2, which is going to put me at 2. I need 12 slashes. I'm going from negative pi to pi, so that means there's 6 on both sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. Let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so the x scale is pi over 6. So the first one's pi over 6. 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, pi. And then on the left side, it's the same thing, but all negatives. So it's negative pi over 6, negative 2 pi over 6. So you guys make yours nice and neat. Mine's hard to do on here. Negative 3 pi over 6, negative 4 pi over 6, negative 7 pi over 6, negative pi. Okay, so it is a cosine curve. So cosine starts at its max or its min. In this case, it's going to start at its min, which is negative 2. It's going to start its min, not at negative 2, at 2. And I know it's going to start its min because of the negative. So remember, my minimum is at 2, so it's going to start down here at 2 on the x-axis. All right, so if I'm at my min now, I have to start going up to my max. So I'm going to hit 4. Go up to my max at 6. Go back down, hit 4. Down to my min, back up to 4, and then back up to 6 at pi. So this is what the right side will look like. All right, now on to the left side. So at negative pi over 6, I'm at my min, so I have to hit 4, and then max at negative pi over 6. Hit 4 at negative 3 pi over 6. Min at negative 4 pi over 6. At negative 5 pi over 6 would be 4, and then negative pi would be there. And then I think, I just noticed this now. I don't know why I have 7 pi. This should have been 5 pi. 5 pi over 6. Sorry about that. And then this would have been pi, and this would have been 5 pi. Sorry. I don't know how that happened. Wasn't paying attention. 5 pi over 6, negative, and then pi, negative pi. Okay, so that's it. We'll practice in class tomorrow. Have a good night.